Well, hello. I am Dr. Christine Anderson. My patients call me Dr. Chris. I am a Los Angeles chiropractor. I'm also a homeopath, for those of you who don't know that. And I am coming on tonight to talk about ways that you can prevent heart disease. Now, this is primarily a lifestyle disease, so there are so many things that you can do on a day-to-day basis to help with your heart health. Now, why is this important? Well, heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. It's a lifestyle disease and it's totally preventable, and you might even possibly be able to reverse it using these lifestyle habits. Now, heart disease deaths per year in the US typically total around 647,457, somewhere in that realm, right? That's 1 in 4 people, 1 in 4 deaths of people dying. This is significant. And I know at this time we are having more numbers put at us. Normally, you don't see the number of people dying, but because of what's going on in our world right now in 2020, now it's 2021, we are more, it's more visible, it's more in our face. But this is the major cause of death. You have more chance of dying of heart disease than anything else, especially here in the United States. So this is really important. And here we are in February. And so everybody thinks of the heart and love. And so this month I will be talking quite a bit about different factors of heart disease. But we're going to dive right in and start off with actually number one. So usually I start with number 5, but we're going to start with number 1, which is chiropractic, regular chiropractic care. Most people don't think of chiropractic care when they think of heart disease. But guess what? Guess what controls the heart? Guess what controls the heart muscle, the heart rhythm, the heart rate? It is the brain and the nervous system. So in chiropractic, the philosophy is that the brain and the nervous system controls everything in the body. So we want to make sure that we can have that top-down control. The brain and nervous system also control blood vessel dilation and blood pressure. And there's actually many studies looking at blood pressure reduction with chiropractic. It affects and controls the digestive system, the breakdown of our food, the uptake of the food, and then the elimination. And this is really important because we need certain nutrients for our heart. And then we're going to talk more about blood sugar in a moment, but the pancreas is involved in blood sugar regulation as well as producing enzymes for food breakdown. Then we've got liver function. Well, liver produces cholesterol, and cholesterol is not an evil guy, and it's not an evil villain. It just happens to be the thing caught holding the bag because it's doing its job. And I actually talk a little bit more about this in a show I did last year where I talked about optimal heart health, and I'll put that link in the description so that you can go back and get an overall picture of cholesterol. But we need it, we make it, but we also have those exogenous sources in our diet. So this is something that we can look at there if your cholesterol is too high. And also, there's different types of cholesterols, and we'll look a little bit about that today. But again, go back to that optimal heart health video because we want to make sure we make the cholesterol, it does its job, and then it gets excreted out of the body. So my job as a chiropractor is to find what we term subluxations, vertebrae that are out of alignment, adjust those, remove that interference to the nervous system so then the body can self-heal, self-regulate, and really that's when you can function optimally. Now, That is what I do, but if you go home and you have a lifestyle that's not supportive of your heart health, well, it's not going to be able to change. The more you do these positive things, the more it's going to happen. And I liken this to a health bank account, like you're either depositing or withdrawing from your health. And so let's get into some of the things that you can actually do at home. All right, the biggest one is avoiding sugar. This is really the primary cause of heart disease, is the insulin resistance that occurs when you are eating things like sugar, flour, processed foods, starches, refined carbohydrates, cookies, candy, cake, ice cream, you name it, all of those things. And it doesn't have to just be white sugar. It can even be the forms of natural sugar. Some will raise your blood sugar more than others. And so maybe one of these days I'll talk about that. But this is a big problem because that blood sugar, if it's left in your blood vessels, if it doesn't get taken up by the cell, because the cell just doesn't recognize anymore the insulin that's being pumped out by the pancreas. It's just kind of like, I don't know what you want me to do, but I am tired and I'm not going to take any more sugar into my cells. It's going to stay in the blood vessels. That's going to create inflammation, and that is what creates the damage. And then the cholesterol comes along and plugs it up, but it can also create blockages, which then will create a heart attack. Now, the average American each year, somebody else is having mine because I'm not, consumes 150 pounds of sugar and 133 pounds of flour each year, each person. That's incredible. That's like a person's worth of that amount. It's incredible. And 88% of Americans have metabolic syndrome due to insulin resistance. 88%. So this is a huge, huge problem. And this is when you start storing your fat around your belly. And when your belly starts to get larger in circumference than your waist, that's when you know you really have a problem. But even some people are what we consider skinny fat. So 70% of Americans are overweight, which is contributing to all these risk factors for heart disease. But 20 to 40% are what we call skinny fat. In other words, they're not super fat, but their visceral fat around their organs is increased. So just because you've been skinny all your life doesn't mean that you are exempt from this. The other thing that happens is that if you're eating a lot of sugar, you're going to create dysbiosis in the gut. That means that you're going to have beneficial bacteria are going to die off. They're not going to be able to be enough to combat things like yeast and the bad guys for bacteria. So that's going to create problems in the gut, even leaky gut, and then that goes on to create more inflammation. So you can see how these things kind of play into itself. The other thing with sugar is that it actually can affect what type of cholesterol is being circulated. So we've got different types. LDL cholesterol, believe it or not, isn't all as bad. One is better than the other. If it's fluffy, that's better, but if it's small and dense, that's going to create that problem with plaque and that atherogenic aspect, meaning the plaques that form in the arteries. So sugar, get it out. Get it out of your life. Stop eating processed foods. If you want something sweet, make it yourself, and then you can control what sweetener goes in there. And make it be a thing that you do on a very occasional basis. so that you are not having something sweet like after dinner every single day. I do not have any junk in my house. I was just trying to think, do I have something? If I do, I've forgotten about it. Maybe I've got some dark chocolate, but I don't even think I have that in the house right now. Seriously, if I buy something and I have a little bit, then I forget about it and I'll find it later and I'm like, oops, because it's not a habit. I don't go for things that are sweet anyway, but for sure, if I want something, I have to make it or go out and get it. And I try to make this be an occasional thing, maybe once a month. I mean, even Thanksgiving, I didn't even have dessert. I just, just didn't want it. All right, let's talk about a nutrient-dense plant-based diet. That's a mouthful. So what I mean by this is that I don't like to just say like a vegan diet, which is, it should be plant-based, but sometimes people are junk food vegans and like, Oreos are vegan. So I'm not saying just don't eat meat or don't eat dairy, but look at what you can do to have a concentration of plant-based foods in your diet that are very concentrated in nutrition. So you want to maximize your caloric intake to reflect nutrition. Because if you don't, your body's going to keep being hungry because it's looking for that nutrition, trying to mine it out of what you're eating. And if it's not there, you're going to keep eating. And this goes back to then the obesity. So there are some real great benefits of not eating animals and eating plant-based foods. Number one, no plant food has cholesterol, only animal foods. So if cholesterol is an issue, you might not want to consume anymore. There are for sure less concentration of toxins in plants. The higher you go up on the food chain, the more concentrated those toxins are that are in our environment. And they're there everywhere. Even if you have grass-fed beef, that cow is eating the grass, which may have had some, coal coming from China fall on it, or other disrupting chemicals, dioxins, PCBs, they disrupt our hormones. And then that gets concentrated in their flesh, and then you're eating that. So in general, of course, we want to eat organic plants because they're going to be less concentrated in pesticides, herbicides, Roundup, which is also meaning it's probably a genetically modified plant. So you want good quality plants as well. Plants are amazing sources of vitamins, minerals, fiber, phytonutrients, enzymes, especially in raw foods, and plant sterols. So plant sterols actually help prevent the resorption of cholesterol in your intestines and help eliminate it from the body. So as I said, we're making cholesterol, but we don't want to keep recycling it. We want to use it and get rid of it. So things very high in fiber like beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds are great sources. They're also great sources of some other things too, like the nuts and seeds are going to contain essential fats, especially ones like walnuts, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, that type of thing, flax seeds. And antioxidants are another benefit of plants. Now you've got a different amount of antioxidant capacity for different plants. There's going to be ones that have a higher amount. Blueberries, everybody seems to know blueberries, and they have the equivalent of about 5,000 IU. That's a unit of measurement for antioxidants. Goji berries are higher. I take in a dense nutrient-based puree called NINGXIA Red, and it contains the goji berries from the Ningxia region of China, where they have a lot of longevity, and that antioxidant capacity is around 30,000. Clove essential oil has an antioxidant capacity of 1 million. So there are certain things that you can look at to see what that's going to do for you. Now, why is this so important? Well, antioxidants combat oxidative stress. And this is what happens inside the arteries, which pings around and creates this source of inflammation. These are rogue, they're called free radicals. And these are rogue electrons. They're not paired. And when they're not paired, they just ping around and create damage wherever they touch. And the antioxidants sort of pair up with them, join with them so that they stop doing the damage. And inflammation is really what ages us. It's what creates dis-ease in the body. And that is including heart disease. Now, there was a study, I guess, done where they had people take 1 cup of blueberries twice a day, and in 4 weeks, it decreased their blood pressure as much as blood pressure medication. So super powerful for antioxidant effects. Then we have essential fats, and I talked about a little bit about nuts and seeds and chia and flax meal. Now, a lot of people will take fish oil or eat fatty fish like salmon or mackerel, grass-fed beef and that type of thing. But again, if you're eating the plant source, you are going to not have so many toxins concentrate in the flesh, and that's huge. So if you are going to eat animal products, maybe just minimize their intake and make sure, again, that they are the best that you can absolutely get. No farmed fish. You want wild fish, and there are ones that are certainly higher in these omega fats than others, so you have to look at that. And then we've got fermented foods, and I've been working on this. As a matter of fact, I really want to start making more. I do kombucha, I make my own kombucha, and I make coconut yogurt, and I really want to start, I just have to do it, right? I really want to start working with vegetables and using those. And what happens is, let's just say I ferment beets. Now, beets are usually very high in sugar, so we just talked about why we might not want to do that. And so when you ferment the beets or carrots or something with a high sugar content, the bacteria are going to use that as food and use it to help ferment the food. So much better way to use things like beets and carrots if you want to include them a lot in your diet and help with that healthy gut microbiome. I will put a link to that show as well. Actually, I think I did a couple of shows on the gut as to why that is so important. But there is a relationship between what goes on with your microbiome in your gut and your mouth, by the way. We have one for our mouth too. And there's a relationship they're finding with heart disease. All right, we're up to number 4. So I don't think this is a surprise. Number 4 is movement. And if you haven't heard it by now, sitting is the new smoking. And it is worse than ever because people are home right now, working from home, doing school from home, and the movement ratio is just gone downhill. So this is something that is always has been important. Our bodies are designed to move. They're not designed to sit for long periods of time. And when they do that, it just is so detrimental to the health. But let's talk about what happens when you do move. It's going to decrease stress on your body, on your mind, and help with your mood. It will help with weight management. Now, I want to be a little bit careful with that because some people, if they're moving more, they might eat more. So we don't want to necessarily do that. And also there are some times when your body is stressed out. Let's just say you have an adrenal issue where your body is very stressed. And if you do too intense of an exercise, it can stress your body even further. So I'm talking about movement in the realm of things like walking or swimming or yoga or tai chi, those type of things that are going to be beneficial. The long distance running is not really what I'm talking about here because that can be very stressful It can actually have an opposite effect of people either not losing weight or even gaining weight. And that's not, for everybody. There are some people that it works for. So everyone is different, and it's going to be your right amount of movement that will help with what you need. Usually it's a combination of flexibility, strength, and endurance, stamina, cardiovascular. So that could mean interval training, but not necessarily like a HIIT program. For me, at this stage in my life, doing HIIT is just too intense. Now, I can do interval training maybe on a little mini tramp so that I've got some cushioning, which feels so much better to me. Or with my aerial arts, I can, if I'm up there long enough, it does deal with endurance, or I can come up and down and do intervals with that. So there's ways to do it where you are not stressing your body out. And if you want help with that, that's where you get in touch with me, right? Insulin sensitivity, so movement helps with the uptake of blood sugar into your cells and decreases that insulin resistance. So if you are doing things like movement, you may notice a shift in your blood sugar. And if you are taking something like insulin, you may need to regulate it and get your doctor to help you with that, because it will decrease. You will not need so much. Better sleep, especially if you're working out or moving in the earlier part of the day and the late part of the day, where we have the sunlight coming onto our body and stimulating our pineal gland, which regulates our melatonin production. It's going to increase what we call, the good cholesterol, the HDL cholesterol, and produce something called nitric oxide, which is produced when we exercise, and it opens up the blood vessels to increase oxygen to our brain and our body, which is what our heart does. It circulates the blood so that we can bring oxygen to our body and remove waste products. So this facilitates the process. And I will put a link in the description for the nitric oxide releasing exercise that you can do. And I actually use this as a warm-up many times before I do my aerial. So I'm going to leave it at that, because we're going to move right on to number 5. Alleviate stress. Now this is a big one, even though I put it as number 5. And it's just because this one sort of interweaves through the other ones as far as what I put in here, because number 1, I put chiropractic because chiropractic overall is the best way to help release physical stress, emotional stress, and toxic stress. So there you go. Now I have a program that I run in my office called a stress response evaluation. And if you're watching this and you're in LA and you would like me to do that, just contact me. I actually haven't done a video on it yet, so I do think I'm going to do something soon so that you can see exactly what this looks at. But with the physical stress, well, this is dealing with a lot of the movement too, and just making sure that you're moving your body. Not only, what do I want to call it? Not only like just going to the gym for an hour or working out for a certain amount of time, but making sure you're moving throughout your day, taking breaks from your computer. Make sure you have an ergonomic setup. I can put a link in that too. The description is going to be full of links. And making sure you're getting up, if not every 20 minutes, which is optimal, then at least once an hour. Even take a deep breath and just move your body, maybe do a few stretches. It doesn't have to be long, but that's going to serve you throughout the day to alleviate stress. Because remember, sitting is the new smoking, and you don't want to sit for too long. Then we have the emotional stress. So doing things like deep breathing and yoga and meditation, brain tap, which I've talked about. I'll put the link. Having laughter, meeting up with friends, life purpose, hobbies, all these types of things, Tai Chi, Qigong, all those types of things are going to help to deal with the emotional stress. And I'll also put links to, I've done videos on Neuro Emotional Technique and Aroma Freedom Technique. If you've got some stress that's really stuck and just won't move, those can be super helpful. And then we get to the toxic element. All right, so let's do the stops first. Stop smoking if you're smoking. Avoid caffeine because it does have an effect on the sympathetic nervous system. So we've got our gas pedal, which is our sympathetics. We've got our parasympathetics, which is our brakes. And if it's on all the time for the gas pedal with the caffeine, that is going to affect your heart. Okay? It needs to have time to rest and relax in between contractions so that it can have that effect of refilling. Eliminate toxins. Now, this is a huge one, and I have done some videos on this, but this is like what's in your air that you're breathing in your house, never mind outside, but just, in your house, in your water that you're drinking, that you're bathing in, plastics, aluminum, Teflon, household and body care products, preservatives, artificial colors and flavors. So, and sugar, I guess we should put that in there. So all of these things build up, and the more that you are being exposed to, the more it's going to create a state of stress for your body. And then the liver has to try and detoxify, and some of these things are even depositing into the nervous system, like heavy metals. So yeah, you want to stay away from as many toxins, even electromagnetic stress. Just make sure you're unplugging at night, because if you do not get that restful sleep and the renewal of your brain and your body, then it's going to be, it's going to be very hard. It's like going up a down escalator in the health. All right. I think that takes care of it. Wow. So we covered a lot of things. If you would like to reach out to me, I've got my website up there, Los Angeles Chiropractor. I love working with people all over the world, basically. And I can do a lot of this remotely, or I can try to work jointly with somebody in your area if you're not living in Los Angeles. So there's so much I can help with. Please reach out to me. I would love to help you reach your health and wellness goals, especially with your heart health. This is something near and dear to my heart, since really it's why I'm here as a chiropractor. When my dad had his first heart attack, when I was 12, he was 32. And I started realizing that what we do in our life, since things changed in our home, not quite like this, but I noticed this, and I started to realize that what we do in our life affects our health. And thankfully, somebody introduced me to chiropractic because I was headed to medical school. And when I learned of the philosophy, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. So I get to do this every day, and I absolutely love it. So give me a thumbs up if you found this helpful. Subscribe, click that notification bell, and please, please don't keep this to yourself. Share this with your friends and family. They need to hear this. We need to get people to realize that it's not about our heart disease isn't due to a lack of statins in our blood. All right, that's enough. I'm going to let you go, and I will see you here next week on Tuesdays, always 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. I come on live. You can watch this anytime though. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to be talking about, but it definitely will be related in some way to the heart health, love as an emotion, and we'll see what comes up. All right, have a great week, and I will see you next time.